ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ಯಾ? ಆ ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ
Good morning, all. So, as per the UG curriculum, we have introduced a generic elective, in other words, called as open elective, that is culinary food science. And this is available for all the degree students who want to opt in the form of generic elective in the CBCS scheme. So, myself, Dr. Hemlata MS, I am chairperson of Food Science and Nutrition Department. So, today we'll be dealing with the first two units of culinary food science. So, what do you mean by culinary food science? So, this food is unhealthy information. So, whenever the word food comes, everybody becomes over enthusiastic and they are very much determine what they want to see and what they want to reheat and what they want to see in a fresh one. This food has many roles to perform. They have their own grounds, they have their own occasions, they have their own strategic, and apart from that, it also depends on the psychology of a human being to see what food he wants to eat. So here in these two units, we'll be able to study the introduction to cookery, and we'll be elaborating on Indian cuisine. One second. Yeah. So introduction to cookery. So cookery can be defined as the chemical process or combination of ingredients, developing skills, methods, and techniques of cooking, applications of heat, and in more advanced stages. So places where usually, just excuse me for 2 minutes. Okay, let's get back. So cookery can be defined as the chemical process, and it's a combination of ingredients, developing skills, methods, and techniques of cooking. So here, application of heat and in more advanced stages, and it also involves scope of creativity. And this cooking has become a big combination of art and science. So where this usually this professional cookery takes place. First thing is very one common place, that is hotel and restaurants. Then when it comes to institution, it is schools and colleges. Sometimes in street sign, where charts and you get other outside foods. Then outdoor cooking, that is in mess and canteens. And in industrial catering, that is in multinational companies. So there they'll be able to provide you with food stuffs. Then you have the bhojanalaya, especially the religious places. It may be a church, it may be a temple, or it may be mosque also, where they provide food. Then airline and sea transport, of course. When you're moving on a aircraft and you're there for a longer journey, or when you are on a sea and you are for a longer journey, then definitely it requires food. So from where did this origin of food and this cookery take care, or where did it from exist? So all the art of cooking is very ancient. It has not started from today or yesterday. It's there since long years. I mean, there is hundreds and decades of science which is going on behind this art of cooking. So, what is that discovered? Earlier, the person just tried to masticate. That means just try to chew. Then first he started eating the raw foods. Once he started eating the raw foods, then he went on to the next step, that is the heating it and then heating the food, cooked food. So with different forms of fire and other things, they were able to cook the food and then have it. So the results were the progression of many, not only Indians, Egyptians, then Babylonians, Greeks, Romans, all this worked together to form a culinary science or the food science for that matter. So there was a little movement in this culinary arts towards making us as a chef. Today we have so many hotels, we have so many types of foods, so many varieties of foods, and each food, each stage, each person gives his own talent or science for this culinary food science. So then later they started recognizing that culinary food science has to work as a professional. That means in order to you make it as a first profession. So in the 20th century, first school of culinary arts was started by La Cuisine Classic. He was a chef. Mainly he was a chef and is also considered as the godfather of modern cookery. Okay, so he, based on his experience and thought focus, he made some few streamlines where he said that this type of services need to be given, and we need to take care of these types of foodstuffs in order to give the best to the customer. So based on that, he made few attributes. Okay, in that it says all cooks are required to wear checkered trousers. Okay, all cooks are required to wear checkered trousers and white jackets. Okay, then cooks to bathe regularly. That means because they are handling the food, so they need to take bath regularly. Okay, they need to take bath regularly. Then cook should acquire schooling for their betterment. So directly they should not become cook. Instead, they should have a basic education. Okay, basic education. Then kitchens to move out from their traditional location of unventilated basements. So kitchen should be separate in the location, and it should be with it should have a basement. Smoking and consumption of alcohol to be banned for kitchen staff. So when they are in the kitchen and they are in the cookery part department, they should never smoke or they should never consume alcohol. He also developed a kitchen brigade, which eliminated the confusion of traditional kitchen setup and the modern, because he was called the father of modern cookery. So he did a program where he divided these two. Then standardizing the recipes and menus. So based on your this one, what do you mean by standardizing? Standardizing means you need to inculcate few recipes, and you must know how much of salt has to be added, how much of sugar has to be added in order to make that recipe a standard one, or the for the requirement, as per the requirement. So based on that, he made this steps, and then he said everything is all these steps need to be followed. So the innovation of Esquifer began to make culinary preparations and art and science in order to emphasize more on quality. So on the 20th century, tremendous changes were seen with the field of equipment, fuel, preservation of food, then refrigerated shipping and vacuum packaging. So inert gas packaging. So there are many things which is happening in this food industries. There are many creativity which is coming day by day. The way of cooking, right from the way of cooking to the style of service and to the packaging and way it moves around. So it is enormous. Then aims and objectives of cooking food. So why do you cook food? So cook partly sterilize, cooking partly sterilizes food. That means when you cook food, 40 at 40-degree bacteria are killed. Then non-spoiling bacteria are killed, and this makes the milk safe. Then it is pasteurized to 63 degree. So when it is pasteurized in another condition, more of this all the types of possible microorganisms are killed. Okay, so to that purpose, they definitely. And the another most important thing is cooking helps to make food more digestible. Okay, cooking makes foods more digestible. So instead of eating raw food, when you eat cooked food, it makes it digestible. Then complex foods are often split into simpler substances during cooking. So if it is a starch, if it is a hardcore fiber, when it is cooked, it gets splitted up. Okay, and it gets divided into monosaccharides or the simple sugars. So this helps to absorb and utilize the food more readily than it is consumed in its raw form. Then cooking increases palatability. Palatability means easy to chew, eat. Then cooking makes food more attractive in appearance and therefore more appetizing. When it looks very attractive, what you feel like eating it. Then cooking introduces variety, so many different types of dishes can be prepared using the same ingredient. Cooking helps to provide a balanced meal, so you will get a balanced meal. That means all type of nutrients are available in the food. Then different ingredients combined together in one dish make easier to provide a balanced meal. So if you don't cook, just if you are eating only raw vegetables, raw fruits, it doesn't make difference. So there are certain ingredients, certain this one, it has to be cooked at any cost. So that's the reason you need to balance your diet, balance your food, balance your this one. So that is about the aims of cooking. Aims of cooking. Then the objectives of cooking. Why do you have to cook? To facilitate digestion as we cook so that food can be absorbed. That is also one of the important which we have already seen in the aims. So during the cooking process, complex food breaks into simple forms. In that, the very first thing, protein. So protein of meat, egg, wheat, pulses, etc. get coagulated when you heat it. Okay. So the connective tissues are converted to gelatin, which is soluble in water. Then in carbohydrates, as I said earlier, starch or fiber, which is generally gets greatly affected by heat moist, and this is first converted to soluble form, and it is sweetest in flavor. Okay. Then fats. So if we eat it at a very temperature, fat undergoes a partial decomposition into fatty acids and glycerol. And then cooking pleases the eye. That's what we said. Appearance is good, it is palatable, it is appetizing. Then cooking sterilizes the food. So more you cook or boil or this one, then it sterilizes. Cooking enhances the appearance of the product. Then cooking gives variety. So we have already spoke. And this another important thing, cooking helps in preservation. So when you keep the food raw, when you keep the food raw, it will not be preserved for longer duration. So you need to, when it is cooked, it can be kept for longer duration. Then cooking makes balance. So that is, all type of foodstuffs can be consumed when it is balanced. Then various textures in food. Various textures in food. So what do you mean by the text? Texture enhances the senses of variety in our nourishment, okay, by impacting the taste of the food. So this is indirectly connected. When you say the texture, it is a study of food rheology. So in other words, it is called as food rheology. This is science of food structure as its own rheology. Now for example, chips, if you take and if you break, it is crispy. When you take cake and you break it, it is very creamy and then smooth, soft. So cake has to have a certain rheology, certain texture. Similarly, chips has to has its own texture. So the five most common textures are watery, that is soup; firm, that is vegetables; crunchy, that is crackers and chips; creamy, that is puddings; then chewy, that is breads and grains. Okay, so this is about the texture. Then the raw foods get exposed to some from heat, and when they are cooked, the term texture is used to characterize this finished product. So the final product will have a certain texture depending on the order on which ingredient are added, then the way it is mixed, and the method of cooking. You can observe, for example, if you pressure cook, the texture is different. If you cook it in a vessel, it is different. If you give dry heat like oven, then it is entirely different. So which is the ones which you do it in firm and close? One is biscuit or short pastries. So raising agents are used while preparing this, but they do not make the product very light or brittle. Then short and crumbly. That is like tarts. So fats are included in this. Whenever you call it as short, then usually fats are included, and then they are used it in biscuits. Then comes spongy. That is our idli and dokla. So they are spongy. So they are left for fermentation for 1 day. Then incorporation of air happens, and this results in a better texture. Then light, there are, it can be cake where there are holes and it is not hard and tough. Then flaky can be chiroti, that vegetable puffs, kara biscuits, etc., where it has a thin crispy layer and it is formed between two layers of dough. So this, when it is baked, it becomes flaky. That means it gives two or more layers. Then is the coarse. Large and uneven holes are results of this coarse. This gives a coarse texture. Then tough. Yes, when you after cook it, it becomes very hard. Okay, there are some foods after cooking it becomes very hard. Then the final one is hard. Another texture which should be avoided as far as possible because our mastication strength will not give enough to take care of this hard foods. So this texture is very very important in order to know the quality of food. Okay, quality of food. So texture is a very important concept in order to make it food acceptable and in order to see the degree of best excellence. You need to have texture, the better texture in food. Okay, you need to have better texture. And this food texture is a vast study where science is incorporated and science is involved. Okay, so this is about the food texture. Then we have the Indian cookery. So Indian cookery is of many types. So as we said, it is there from back to Indus civilization and then the Harappan civilization over 5,000 years ago. Then wheat, millets, rice, chickpeas, lentils, staple diet were a part of that day and it is a part of today also. And we had special spices in Indian foods which were not available in foreign foods, of course, like cinnamon, cardamom, cumin, star, etc., to name a few. Then dairy products were also later incorporated. Then Indian curries were according to religion. So we have different regions. One is the North Indian cooking, and the North Indian cooking has a strong influence through Mughal people, and they use dairy ingredients like yogurt, butter, ghee, and foods like samosas, palak, paneer, and korma are from these region. Then Western Indian cooking, you see fish and then coconut heavy cuisine, which is through the border of Goa and former Portuguese colony also. So these Portuguese people have a effect on this Western Indian cooking, and no doubt they have a lot of fish and coconut in them. And then Gujaratis are primarily vegetarian and they eat sweetened foods. Then Eastern Indian cooking. So this cuisine favors fish and rice also, especially in Bengal, and they have the proximity of the border, and also they have momos in their foods, and they have some particular sweets also like mishti doi or rasgulla. Then the South Indian cooking is entirely different from all the three places. So where vegetable and lentils are used in plenty. So instead of plain breads, we use the most abundant one, that is the rice cooking. So rice in different forms like dosas, vegetable uttapams or idlis, etc. So Indian recipes, Indian recipes have their own cooking equipments and cooking techniques. So from meat-based non-vegetarian foodstuffs to vegetarian foodstuffs. Here we have different Indian cooking equipments. One is the tawa. So the concave pan, traditionally made of cast iron, is essential to making a fluffy roti or chapati. And the flatter version is used for dosas. Another one is Belen and Chakla. Belen and Chakla is for rolling the flatbreads. Okay, rolling the flats. Then the most unique one is the masala dabba, where different spices are kept. Then the pressure cooker. So this will save the time and then it will cook faster. Then Indian cooking techniques are also different. That is the tadka, also known as bhagna or chom. So it involves tempering spices in hot oil or ghee, and at least 2 to 3 ingredients like mustard seeds and bay leaves. So you prepare dal. Finally, in Kannada, we say ogranne. A last tadka is given to that. Then bono. The method involves sorting. That means stirring the foodstuffs so that it is moisturizes and later caramelizes. Then dum. Dum is another one, where a pot or pan is kept in the bottom and then completely the vessel is covered with a cloth or something, and then on top of it you will be keeping a placed heavy hot water or something so that a creation of vacuum is created, a heat vacuum is created, and the food gets cooked completely. Then there is one more technique which is used, that is bhapa. That is South Indian idlis and Gujarati doklas are used in this, where steaming in the pot takes place. So bottom you allow the water to steam, boil, and when the steam passes on the top, the idli gets cooked. Okay, so this is the another one, steaming. It is known as bhapa. Then coming to different cookeries. For coming to different cookeries. So we spoke about Indian cookeries. Now we are speaking about the cuisines of world. Cuisines of world. In that you have very one Italian. So Italian cuisine consists of traditional meals and ingredients that people consume in Italy. So these are mainly pasta, sauces, and cheeses, which are staple in the country. So the traditional Italian ingredients involves extra virgin olive oil. So olive oil is very common in the any Italian food you eat. And another one is vinegar. Vinegar, they use it extremely in Italian cookery. Then garlic is one of the most popular ingredient throughout the country. Then pasta. Pasta is a mix of flour, eggs, olive oil, etc. Then the sauce, what you had to pasta, and then fresh tomatoes, oregano. Oregano, this adds a hearty flavor and it gives a dressing to pizza, grilled meats, etc. And then capers. These are pickled flower buds from the rose bush. Then they have porcini mushrooms, and these porcini mushrooms are found under pine or oak trees. Okay, basil. Basil is also used in India, and this is a fragrant green herb with smoky, minty taste. Then Italian cheese. They have a different cheese of aging and smoking them, which is produced. Then red wine and white wine are a definite part of the Italian culture. So any peninsula of Italians you go, they are colonized with ancient Greeks and they are very much used to this red wine and white wine. So this is about Italian cookery, what they use. So few of the traditional Italian recipes is ribollita. So it is a steam hot comfort in a bowl. Okay, and it is made up of carrots and tomatoes. Then you have ricotta meatballs. So this is creamy ricotta and salty pepperoni. Then it has Neapolitan style margherita pizza. So pizza is one which has crushed tomatoes on the top and olive oil with basil leaves. Then broccoli pasta, then spiced cod, then nectarine olive oil cake. So this is about Italian cooking, Italian foods. Then you have very Chinese food or the Chinese cuisine. It is much famous and common in India also. So we have adopted many of our Chinese food and we have made it a little Indian also. The features of Chinese food is Shandong cuisine. Okay, Shandong cuisine. Then Sichuan or Hunan cuisines. Then Guangdong and Zhejiang Zhengzhou cuisines. That is the places of China. So in Guangdong or Cantonese cuisine, You have sweeter flavor braising and stewings, and they are mainly seafoods. In Sichuan cuisine, you have the lots of chilies, garlic, ginger, peanuts. And then in Jingsu cuisine, you have sweet and sour spare ribs, and they are moderately salty and sweet. In Zhejiang cuisine, you have seafood. See, most of the Chinese you can see, apart from the regular your noodles or other things, it is usually they use seafoods more. Then in Min cuisine, they have mild, sweet, and sour taste. Then in Yunnan, there is hot and sour taste. Hanoi cuisine is one more thing where they use wild plants. Okay, where they use wild plants as ingredients. Then Shandong cuisine is salty, crispy, and it is favoring braising and seafood. So these are the Chinese foods. In that you will find noodles also. In Shandong cuisine, you will find noodles also. Okay. Then Middle Eastern. So the Middle East is a region that connects the East and West, and then it is Russia and the warm seas, and there are other places like Bahrain to Iran, Kuwait, Qatar, and Jordan, Turkey, etc. So in this hummus, which it is a mashed chickpea dip made with olive oil, garlic, lemon juice. Then tiny, a virtual tie for popularity, and here the sesame paste is the foundation for this tiny. Then you have falafel. Falafel is a fried ball made of chickpeas, onion, and spices. Then tableau. It is a salad that is made with cracked wheat or the bulgur wheat with mint, parsley, and vegetables. Then pita bread. Pita bread is made, it is warm, toasted, and stuffed. Baklava. Baklava is a very, very common, and it is here the Greeks use honey for this, and it is a orange blossom or rose water. Then baba ganoush. It is a vegetarian favorite. It is smooth and cream dip. Turkish coffee. Turkish coffee is very, very famous. It is bold, rich taste, and it has a hint of cardamom. Then Turkish delight. So this is a quintessential candy in the Middle East, and it is made simply with sugar and cornstarch, and they are very much addictive. The delight, if you have once, you feel like having it again and again. Then coming to the Australian cuisines. So Australian cuisines are meals from diverse and ever inexpensive ingredients. And our Australian food has a history, instead being dynamic, urban, and industrial science based. They are into tropical and traditional, and they have a taste for seafood as well as white flesh of wild animals. So, in that, chicken is one. The Aussie chicken dish with roots in Italian American cooking is a staple offering. Then, barbecued snacks. So, the Australian sausages are usually pork or beef. Then Lamingtons. Lamingtons is recognized as the national cake of Australia. After the national voted the sweet treat an Australian icon. So it is named after the Lord Lamington, a former governor of Queensland. Then a burger with the lot. So burger filled with tomato, lettuce, onions. Then pulao, this is claiming inventing for the famous dessert, and both Australians and New Zealand people like this. And meat pies. So meat is being hand sized and filled with minced meat, and the gravy is prepared. Then barramundi, a name, a large scale river fish. Okay, or it is grilled fish. Then Vegemite on toast. So Vegemite is made from yeast extract and actually not vegetables. Then pumpkin soup. So a bowl of pumpkin soup eaten by the fire with added Granny Smith apple. So this is found mainly in Sydney and in and around Sydney. So techniques used in these are of different Italian, Chinese, Middle East, and Australian cookery. So what are the techniques used in pre-preparations? So first thing is washing. That is to remove dirt. Then second thing is peeling, scraping of the skins and vegetables, skin of vegetables and fruits. Pairing, removing the surface area in circular motion by preface of knife or anything in cutting object. Then cutting into small pieces. Then mincing it. If required, you need to mince, especially mutton or onion. Then shredding. Shredding into very small pieces. Example, cabbage and coconut. Slicing. Cutting into thin pieces, but not as fine as shredding. Then slitting. Example, green chilies. You just cut it in the middle and then slit it. Grating, coconut. Coconut is the one which is very much grated into small particles. Grinding, that is reducing all small pieces but by crushing it into a masala. Mashing, mashing means breaking up into soft food. Pressing, so breaking, separating of liquid portion from solids, for example cheese preparation. Then sieving, sieving is to sieve, to remove the dirt and impurities. Then refining, freeing any material from impurities, for example sugar. Skimming, removing of floating layer. Rendering, separation of fat of animals from their connective tissues by heat. Then filtration. So separating solids from liquids through fine mashed materials. Then evaporation and reduction. So removal of water without the lid. Homogenization. That is subdividing large particles into smaller ones by forcing them into aperture. Okay, homogenize, especially the milk homogenization takes place, and then where your fat is being removed. Emulsification, that is dispersing one liquid in one into another form. So this is about techniques used in food preparation. Then you have techniques used in preparation. First is pre-preparation. Now it is preparation. So another thing is beating. So mixing it whiskly, especially during omelette preparation or cake preparation. Then blending it, mixing two or more ingredients. So cutting, which is also incorporation of fat and flour, etc. Then creaming, if required, that in usually in cake making. Then folding, if using the spoon or knead, you just have to fold. Then kneading, kneading especially in dough when you prepare chapatis. Marinating, that is if you are preparing some chicken kebab or something, you need to marinate with that and then leave it for some time. Then stirring, mixing ingredients with an appropriate tool. Whipping is rapid beating. So this is about preparation. First was pre-preparation, then is preparation. Now you have techniques used in preparation, then Then you have methods of heat transfer. So methods of heat transfer. How do you transfer the heat? So you know every food has to be heated. So how it has to be heated? The first thing is boiling. So it's the method of cooking food in boiling water or other water-based liquids such as stock or milk. Then baking. You know dry heat is given here, or it can be in hot ashes or hot stones, and nowadays hot irons also have come. Broiling is exposing food directly to radiant heat. Okay. Then steaming, we have spoke about that, where you leave the water to boil and in the steam itself the food gets cooked. Then you have pan frying, where you have a strong pan and little of oil is added, lubricate the pan, and you have shallow frying as well as deep frying. In deep frying, you prepare this bhajis, puris, etc. In pressure cooking, you know, rice and other vegetables are cooked. Microwave cooking is one more new thing which has come. So you just have to keep it for a few seconds and it is done. Combi oven, that is which has both convection, steam and combination of dry and wet heat. Then sauce white, it is a cooking food in vacuum. So very rarely Indian foodstuffs are used in this. So that is one way of doing it. That is sauce white. Okay, so this is about the first chapter, that is the introduction to modern cookery. Okay, introduction to modern cookery. Now you were able to see the different types of foodstuffs, what we use and what we eat, and the foodstuffs of different world also, that is Middle East and then Australia and Chinese, etc. Now we will depthly go into the Indian food culture only. So this, as a land of India, it has experienced extensive immigration. So we were ruled by 300 years or from British and 300 years from the Mughals and etc. So here the food also has a rich heritage which has been taken from all those traditional this one, right from Alexander to Nadir Shah to Sher Shah Suri to Babur. So this Indian food culture or the Indian culinary tradition is been exposed and influenced by all the evolutions of India rulers who have come and ruled and gone. And vegetarianism is widely practiced in many Hindus and Buddhist and Jain communities. So food has become a marker of religious and social identity in different durations. So Jain foods, they don't consume even the roots for that matter, like onion or garlic. So history of Indian cuisine, history of Indian cuisine. India is not confined to one culture. So I said it has a very rich background right from 5,000 years. So Indians tend to be, in Hindus we have who are vegetarians, Muslims have to have tend to have meat dishes, and we are also influenced by Mongolian, Persian, Chinese dishes, and we try to incorporate their own dish, and that we had our own spices, and we have come out with a different food product. So around in 7,000 BCE, sesame eggplant is the brinjal, and that had been domesticated in Indus Valley civilization. Similarly, in Vedic period, in agriculture was complemented with game hunting and products from the forest. So the normal diet consisted of fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and honey. Okay, some then Hindu concept of ahimsa, so where you should not trouble the animals or killing. So this led to another form where fruits and vegetables are consumed. Even the Buddhists followed this, and they also called it as sattvic ahar. Okay, sattvic, that is pure, and where none of onions or any roots are also added. But later, when the invasions happened from Asia, Arabia, and the Mughal Empire, and also the particular Persia, okay, then different types of foods also started coming into India. Then lavish dishes after during the reigns of Jahangir and Shah Jahan, that is which is purely rich in made up of ghee, butter, etc. And also a traditional food which is Hyderabadi biryani, etc. Then influence from Arab and Portuguese traders. This also influenced some new world vegetables such as tomatoes, chilies, squashes, and potatoes, which were introduced in the 16th century. Then the British introduced the European recipes with cooking techniques like baking. So, baking was entered into India only during the British era. So, they started baking the cake. So, development of Indian cuisine. So India is a country that has revolution. So from all these different places, they have taken different laden and they have started. The cuisines not only vary with the festivals but also with the geographical conditions. This we have already studied: north, south, and then west and east. So they all have different foodstuffs and different ways of cooking. Okay. Ancient and medieval history. So, food in epic period. So, that time during in Mahabharata Ramayana, for the earliest period, they were including wide variety of cereals and pulses. So, they were eating this foodstuffs, and they were parched rice where they used to add water or prepared in the form of kanji, that is vatya. It was a gruel which is made up of barley. Then early Indians also were food that was available in nature, that is food, wild berries, meats, fish, etc. So what was available in the nature also were used. Then rice was the staple food, and that was eaten with cooked lentils, vegetables, and meat sometimes. So wheat was used to make flat breads known as chapati. So cooking of chicken came to India from Thailand, and mutton came from West Asia. Okay, milk and milk products came during the ancient times itself. So rice was eaten with curd. Cows were respected from that period, and hence they stopped eating cow. And many spices were cultivated in the Indian continent. So these they were used as aroma and flavors. They were used as aroma and flavors. They were added to it. So during Vedic period, that is largely divided into the food based on Aryans and Dravidians. So food in epic period further included the dairy products in which they were not allowed to drink milk of sheep, mare, asses, camels, etc. And recently, which are honey as yet very common, and along with curd, buttermilk, etc. It is also mentioned that the meat of the Ashwamedha horse was also taken by the victorious. So, in few Vedic books, they have mentioned the meat of horse was also eaten, and they were also preparing some intoxicated drinks at that duration, where they used to where they used to drink intoxicated drinks. Then, food in Mauryan period, here, instead with the old rice, namely Vrahi, Sali, Kodrava, they started eating few more foods. Rice varieties were introduced, and barley was introduced, and they considered everyone's this one meat, cow's milk, and milk from buffaloes, goat, sheep, etc. were used, and honey was regular. Raw sugar, sugar candy, refined sugars were amiably popular, and further they included cardamom, which was white, reddish, and all that, and including they were also using intoxicated liquors. The common drinks such as wines and rice beers were used at that time. In Gupta period, so influenced by Buddhism and Jainism, there were a lot of changes in culture of ancient India. So cows were again sacred to her, mother goddess, and instead they stopped eating this. Then Gupta period had a number of rice preparations, that is sali rice from Bengal. Then Sastika rice was considered as the best, most nourished rice. Then Mahavrihi rice, grown in Magadha. And then food in Gupta period was also including dairy products. Then milk of elephants, buffaloes, camel, goat, sheep, and mares were also used. Then coming to the Mughal influence of food. Mughal cuisine was introduced by Muslims from Western Asia. They used to have a lavish buffet, and they used to serve 50 dishes at a time, and the spices were beautiful, and they could be classified as exotic spices. And they were also pilafs consist of milk and cream and nuts and dry fruits. And when Babur conquered India, it is thought that he took the custom of grilled meats and dried fruit along with him. So carried on the family thing and launched a variety of pilafs and biryanis. And they also married Rajput queens, and so there also the cross cuisine happened. Then the advent of other people entering into the Mughal era. So this happened to have changes in the foodstuffs. Then modern era in Indian food. So modern era in Indian food is a combination of different cuisines. So today, that is the modern era is today, and from it emerged between 1800 to 1947, and it has almost been covering here. Here they had Indian food, English food, then they had foods from different chefs of Pakistan, Middle East, etc. All the things were there, and in that they were able to prepare their own food stuffs. So food included an assortment of different cooking style influenced by various traditions and culture. Then cultural influences on food, Indian food. So quantum mechanics and Indian cuisine are both easy to define. So over the course of 5,000 years, different vessels, different group of immigrants coming to India, then ruling India, then the preparations of from different areas, and in which many other foodstuffs are included. So all this add their own cultural influences. Then preparation of what is called rasam. There are several kinds of which can be named as Mysore rasam, Panna rasam, Porcia rasam, Milago rasam, and so on. So they are used by with the water. When boiled rice is consumed, and then the water is left off. That usually this rasam is prepared by the water, so that the water doesn't get wasted, and it is the nutrients inside the water is left for us to consume. Coming to the uses of spices in ancient India. So the spices of ancient India. So there are many spices which has been used. So with popular spices like cardamom, you have many other spices like rock salt, sea salt, beta salt, then pepper, ginger, cumin seeds, white mustard, coriander, cloves, turmeric, etc. And then cinnamon, cardamom, asafoetida, black pepper, and asafoetida is also called as bhalika. Then hard cooking in ancient India. So we had already seen that few of the kitchenwares what we are using, and that has been taken from the old custom. So we have already gone through the 4 types of Indian food. In North Indian food, you find a lot of chapatis, rumali roti, naan, etc. and paneer dishes. Then in Western Indian food, you have around prawns, pomfret, etc. which is influenced by the Portuguese Goan foods. Then in Indian foods, you have rasgulla, sandesh, cham, basically we are vegetarians, and West Bengalis also have a love for the fish, is the seafood. Then South Indian food, it is mainly idlis and dosas and upma based on rice and steam cooking. So influence of foreign countries we have already seen. Mongolian and Chinese influence is very much these days. So every now and then every house has a food made up of noodles or Maggi or whatever you call. Then Portuguese influence is there because of govas and salty and rich flavorful. Then British flavor, of course, where we are using the dry foodstuffs. Okay. Then Greek influence is when Alexander entered, and you have the pan-fried kalahari from Jammu and Kashmir. So there are different eating styles of food. So we have a different eating styles also. So we usually, as Indians, we prefer to sit down and eat. And now because of the table culture, we have different thalis also, separate thalis for veg and separate thalis for non-veg. There are traditional equipments also which are used for cooking. One is the chakki, where you ground or you make powder. Then the chula, where that is burn, where you use woods for that. Then jaktis, where silver brasses are used and handled in different sizes and depths. Then earthenware pots, where mud pots are used for cooking. Okay, where mud pots are used. Then karchi. Karchi is a long handles with iron ladle. Then kadai, very it's common. Every household has a kadai and kodai. Kodai is one which has a topper, and kadai there is no topper. Then mortar and pestle, of course, to powder some spices. Then tambalash, which is flat iron disc, often perforated, and it is used for frying and stirring. Then you have tandoor, which is barrel-shaped open clay, and it's used for tandoor preparation. That is the tandoori roti. Then tawa, then thali, that is the plate and with bowls, so that you can eat it when foods are consumed. So changes in consumption in traditional foods. Okay, so this from traditional foods. So urbanization has taken place, and due to this urbanization, there are very rurals who have migrated to urbans, and they are having today convenient foods which are easy for them. Then increase of women in city employment. Okay, so that also has given the changes in food stuff, and they want to make it a easier food stuff where they can easily prepare. Then positive aspects of urban food systems. Then increasing urbanization and sedentary lifestyle also, as there's been the primary health issue. Then urban consumers are increasingly unaware of the process by which the food is being produced and processed. So traditional foods which are there at home or which are prepared at home are rare now. So all are going for the ready to eat foodstuffs. So ready to eat foodstuffs and ready to eat foodstuffs. This CFTRI and DFRL, they have developed many technology for few chapatis, pulao, khichdi, halwas, etc. And that is readily available in the market, and people are consuming that. So traditional foods. So traditional foods, in that the very important this one is food security. So here several options for preserving foodstuffs, drying, freezing, canning, pickling, etc. has to be done. And traditional foods are found to be important source of income and employment for millions of people. Then optimum health and nutrition of individuals is dependent on the regular supply of food and intake of balanced diet. So many traditional food products have strong flavors which can enhance the food and make it up spicy. Apart from that, traditional foods also have medicinal benefits. So if you are consuming food in the right pattern, in the right form, then definitely it is of medicinal value. And then sometimes this traditional foods also requires HACCP, that is hazard analysis and critical control point, where it is declared that food is free of any problems and no problems are detected and it is free to eat. So this ready to eat food has lot of market potential, especially in the urban areas, and it is being produced and then it is extensively used in this regular urban places, so that we consume sufficient food and it is free of any microorganisms, etc. So these are the two things which we saw. First one is introduction to cookery, then Indian cuisines, mainly how they are influenced, because many immigrants have come down, many rulers have come. We have been under the power of Britishers, we have been under the power of Mauryans, and apart from that, different thinking powers and different thought process of different people have all influenced our way of food eating. Okay, have all influenced our way of food eating. So this is what we are going to we have studied in this culinary food science of first two units. Thank you very much.